Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things, of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Yeah, I guess I've got to still acknowledge some anxious parts that are. I'm sort of I'm still, come on. But
I still have anxious parts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's understandable, right? It's understandable. It's all understandable. And so, since we last spoke and since we texted, which I think was around the same time, I don't know if it was just since then or maybe a bit before, but I kind of backed off a little bit of my trying to meet parts every day thing. Because I just sort of wanted to see maybe how much of that was, some sort of striving energy. And so, and I also I did listen to our last call, but really only once or twice sort of near that and not since. So, so, I mean, I think I've had sort of, both a bit of benefit, but also a little less benefit from that approach. I mean, in terms of observing parts, I'm just trying to kind of watch them as they pop up, and also trying to listen out or feel for self energy when it's there.
It's great to know you're experimenting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then, of course, yesterday, knowing that this call was coming up, I was like, oh, well, what have I been noticing? And that was interesting because it kind of put me right back in well, I guess I always feel the sort of polarizations and I'm sure I've talked about these before, but sort of, kind of creating the outside me, which could be many different things. It can be the narrator and me sort of sometimes even doing some parts work or similar things. There'll be this part that feels that I have to put it down on paper or record it or something or capture it somehow. And that's, I've just been trying to be a bit more open with that because, it's interesting. Anyway, that's what I see as a kind of create the outside person. Well, actually, no, wait, maybe it isn't. But there's definitely a pattern seeker in there trying to kind of how would I map this and how would I organize it in my mind and so on. So I'm trying to be aware of that one. And then, but yeah, certainly like kind of articulating things, capturing them, and then a kind of a different team, and I'm thinking of them as multiple because yeah, I feel like there's multiple kind of on both sides. And the other one's kind of saying like, no, this is, if you keep stopping and writing it down, or if you think about how it sounds to other people or how it comes across, that's not a real experience, and you're not really, it's a difference between kind of like taking a photo and looking at the sunset kind of thing.
Yes.
So that push and pull is so strong in me, and I'm sure it's probably in most people. But yeah, so that's one kind of like constant, especially when, and maybe I noticed it a little bit less when I kind of softened up around the, let's meet parts every day kind of thing. And there were other things, or maybe sort of more nuances to that, but I can't think of them right now. So
okay,
I'm happy just
I'm taking notes. So
yeah,
making my list.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's part of it. I see it as the same two dynamics, but there's something that comes up for me is like wanting to sign up for. There's just all this amazing education that is out there, kind of in my field or in stuff that I'm interested in. That was, it's so accessible now, but I have like hours of unwatched things, or things that I have meant to rewatch, or if I'm not there live for something, like I generally often won't follow through with kind of sitting down and listening to it. So but I have a break from my two education programs that I'm in right now, which are sort of in and of themselves are a bit too much to do, so I should probably just enjoy the break. But there's all this other stuff that's like, oh my god, I really want to do that, and then the sort of putting the, pushing back against that, going, that's ridiculous, because it would be great to just let that stuff kind of sink in a bit, and get more embodied and more digested, Yeah.
All right. All welcome.
So yeah,
we'll see. My pattern recognizer is noticing some patterns.
Really? Yeah.
Well, we've talked about the learner and how important a part that really wants to be knowledgeable and how important that is. We've also talked about, when you say creating the outside me and how things come across, we've talked about the performer kind of.
Oh yeah, they're all on that, they're on that team. I mean, that's why I say like multiples, and I find it in a way easier just to sort of see the dynamics than like, oh hey, I'm talking to this part, and maybe they shift into each other. I don't know.
And in our last conversation, I was sensing that we were speaking with the exile that kind of drives them.
Or one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then actually, here's another one I picked up on. Well, right. And I've texted you about this a bunch of times, but like I noticed, the dynamic that I'll have after or at least recent calls after I finish, I'm kind of like, oh, I didn't articulate it. Like, I kind of, it probably wasn't clear, and I didn't say what I meant to say, and all this. And I do recognize that as a part, because when I occasionally do like an audio note to myself or something, I notice the same thing kind of coming up. And then when I listen back to them, I mean, they're a lot clearer than that part thinks they are. So
yeah,
that's on the other team of kind of like, oh, it's not genuine. It's not, it's too, whatever. Yeah.
that
And
part's welcome too. Very valuable.
yeah,
and it's true that I don't always catch or understand what you're saying or what everyone's saying.
oh no, but I was noticing it when I'm talking to myself. That's what the sort of light bulb was yesterday. I was like, oh, it's there anyway. And and sometimes like to be meditating or kind of trying to talk to poets, but not by writing, which is something I still kind of haven't gotten into the swing of, like just that writing where you might, tap into the communication with that. But just reflecting and being quiet, and then, I have to interrupt myself and go write it down. And so on the outside me, the sort of the creation side of it, there's this like I'm asking myself, like, why do I need to interrupt this moment and actually go write it down? What's that need, And I think there's a sense that it might disappear and never be recovered, and it might be this like flash of insight, or something, that it would just go away and be lost. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there might be, I'm always talking about things in two opposing groups, and there might be this kind of quadrant, which that I haven't sort of I haven't sensed enough yet, and that might just be the pattern enjoyer, wanting to kind of make it into a nice tidy, like, because it seems not quite as simple as the two. And even like allowing for the third, the sort of exile energy. Anyway, I'm happy to put that one aside and just like let it observe.
Yeah, I mean, just since the start of this conversation, I would guess that we're hearing from maybe 7 or 8 or so parts. Which is normal.
Yeah. But do they shapeshift?
Of course.
They do. They sort of kind of seem like they're concerned about one thing, and then anyway. Yeah. I guess there's also a part that just really likes things to be defined and tidy, and that's the pattern one, maybe. That's like, want to understand it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how I usually start? Well, usually I ask if someone wants a minute of meditation.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then I'll ask if any of these parts you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if anyone or what floats up.
Okay, ready for that minute? Okay, I'll start now.
Maybe we can do a couple days, actually.
Great, 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Parts you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you who floated up. And I was actually, despite what I said about not doing much parts work, I was sort of talking to these two this morning. And one is the very same lip trembling poet from last call. And I have not noticed it much this month at all, but it did show up again this morning. And I think it has to do with like, I think it has to do with wanting to connect and wanting to be liked and wanting to be witnessed and seen, and yeah, so sometimes maybe I thought it was a little exiling maybe. And then one that I had not really encountered so clearly before until today, but I felt it just now, I really think is trying to manage and push down that part. And I experience it as a kind of pressure above my eyebrows. It's much more specific than I've had a lot of sensations in the head and sort of forehead region, but yeah, so those came up. And then the learner briefly came up and said it wanted me to say that it's not just learning to impress people, it really likes learning. And yeah, this stuff is also exciting. And
absolutely.
But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a kid in a candy store.
Thank you, learner part, for clarifying that.
Yeah. And then I did have this brief visual of just kind of getting to the edge of a diving board, which I think was more general, of like kind of being in the meditation and just feeling like, oh, I'm a little more anxious than I wish I was. So the anxious parts are there.
And anxious feels different from the lip trembling?
I'm not sure if I don't think it's different, but it might be wider, sort of broader. Because other times I've noticed this kind of buzziness, which is a bit more, just a bit wider, like kind of sensation wise, as the lip trembling is very specific. It's right on it's right on my lower lip on the right side.
So the anxious is up now. You mentioned the lip trembling coming up this morning. Is that also?
Oh, but the lip trembling and the eyebrow kind of, they, I think, sort of go together, or at least they did this morning, and they were both up in this last 2 minutes. Yeah.
Great. All right.
We got a crowd.
Yeah. And you're doing a great job of noticing them, naming them. It's really useful.
Well, the other thing with my sort of backing down a little bit from, okay, I'm going to do parts work, is, and this is where, our texting helped, because I think that even though maybe I didn't think I was sort of being a bit too narrow in like just how I think they're going to talk to me or communicate, and so I can tune into sensations. And then in some other calls, when I re-listen to them, I'm like, well, I'm getting really stuck on like, is that that's what I called the interference last time. Like, is that a part talking or not? And I think that I'm just, my backing off was really trying to just loosen up around that a little bit and be okay with kind of whatever comes up, and be a little bit more trusting.
Yeah, it takes time.
Way. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, there's, I guess some anxiety sort of floats up about this, the whole, oh, here I am speaking on a recording again and stuff like that. It's all pretty familiar.
Okay. You want to hear what else we can hear from it?
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
So there's the recording and the speaking on the recording. What else is up for this anxious part?
Well, it's in the same domain as the lip trembling part, so maybe they're, we could sort of call them the same, as you asked. So it's just kind of like how, Well, let me get quiet even, and just because I'm sort of saying what I picked up on before. So let me see.
Great. Great.
Yeah, I think it has to do with feeling a little uncomfortable, and it's sort of in a bit of a sort of exposed way of like, um, the way I would feel if I had to speak to a crowd of people or something like that, which is just kind of odd because, um, but I think that's how it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of energy in my life like that of kind of avoiding things like that.
Okay.
Avoiding uncomfortable, sometimes situations where I might need to sort of step up.
Would it feel good to keep trying to get to know the anxious one?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you ask the one that thinks it's odd to step back?
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make space for the anxious one for now. It said, here I
Yeah.
am on recording. Talked about being uncomfortable, feeling exposed, like speaking to a crowd.
Yeah.
Is there anything else it wants to show us?
Well, I think I'll just share that, when you say, can you ask the one that thinks it's odd to step back? That feels hard, but what feels easier, and maybe it kind of amounts to the same thing, is just trying to make a bit more space around the anxious one and be more, just be accepting of it.
Okay.
So maybe it comes to the same thing, really. But
I am curious about what feels hard about that, but we don't have to go there.
Well, it's sort of like, I immediately get this kind of, okay, now I have to find the part that thinks it's odd. And I don't, it was a transient thought. So there's a part there, but I think it kind of maybe gets me back into my, like, I'm not, I can't do this. So it feels easier just to be like, okay, can I just expand a little bit around the anxiety?
Okay.
As much as I can identify that. So. Yeah, I think the anxious one just really doesn't like to have any attention on it at all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And kind of wants to just go hide somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
You let it know that that's okay, that we don't have to give it attention.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to let you know, and this part know, that nothing you share with me has to be shared with anyone else, and that nothing the anxious part shares with you has to be shared with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe before it runs off, you could ask it that, like, would it feel okay just having your attention? Just forget about communicating with me or being recorded. Does it like that?
Yeah, it does. It does settle a little bit. But it might also kind of come back to the silence thing, right? Because if I do that, it even, I don't know if it can be sort of simultaneously feeling calmer by that invitation, but also feeling like okay, but now we're being quiet, and it's very conscious of that, you know.
Yeah. So there's a part that says that it's not okay to be too quiet.
Well,
okay.
And I wonder if it's a different part, or it's sort of the anxious part being like, okay, this is a long silence. This is time to come up with something. I don't know if it's well, let's call it a different part.
Okay, let's welcome that one. I'd like to let it know from me that I love long silences. In fact, I have my own anxious parts about my own need to fill space. And they really get to relax when my partner in the conversation goes for the silence. Or when we make that okay. So I'd like to make a space, make an intention here where that's more than okay.
Okay.
How's it respond to hearing me say that?
Well, a part came up before that. It's, I think, between me talking and you talking, saying like, okay, now you're being repetitive because we've had the same conversation before.
Yes.
And so that's there. Just to acknowledge that. And
it's
and
true.
the anxious part very much likes that about the silence.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah.
I did get an image, just like 2 exchanges back of a deer. The way when you sort of spot them, they kind of look at you for a while before bolting, you know. Yeah. It does feel that kind of energy. Well, no, I think that's the anxious part. I think it's kind of like, I'm here, but I'm ready to, dash behind the trees. Yeah.
Ask it what it needs to stay here and stay with you. If it needs silence, if it needs you to not share, just ask it whatever would make it comfortable.
Well, I don't think it's going away.
Can you say that again?
I don't think it's there. It's not going away.
Okay.
I'm not getting any messages from it, but I think it might just be take its time. And and at one point I got a kind of a little part that I think kind of sensed before, that's sort of like a look, no hands kind of part, like we're doing it.
You're doing it. You're meeting with a part.
Yeah, it's like popping out, going, yeah,
that's so awesome.
Keep going.
I have the same cheerleading parts.
Right.
Really happy for you that you're doing that.
Yeah, but it is a little bit of a distraction, but it is
Sure.
kind of cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. How do you feel towards that anxious part?
Let me see. Well, I do feel quite blended with it, but I think there is a little bit more space to just be welcoming of it than certainly than there was at the beginning, and maybe than there has been in like other times when it's come up.
Yeah. And it's up for you pretty regularly, right?
I
mean, you're familiar with this part.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've learned to manage in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of its chance to be up for you in an unmanaged way.
Exactly.
And because it is up as often as it is, we know that it's important. We know that it has a reason for being there. So you just let it know that. And we want to take its messages seriously. So far, I just have the two that you already shared. You could just ask it what else it wants you to know about itself, or why it feels anxious.
It's up in unfamiliar situations is what I just kind of got, because I think I used to there I mentioned a part last time which I think is related. I called it the paddleboard part. I think there's a dynamic for me that sometimes yeah, I'm not sure if I'm sort of reaching too far, but to say this, but that kind of feeling anxious in this way is very immediate and strong. And so sometimes there's a dynamic where it's almost as if someone or something is trying to stir up the anxious part, because it makes me not overthink things or get kind of lost in some other way.
Okay.
But I don't think that came from the anxious part.
You could ask it.
Yeah.
You could ask it if that's one of its roles, is to kind of keep you from some other mode or some other part.
Well, I might have. I just got the thought that when I'm anxious like this, I'm not on autopilot. And I'm thinking of situations where this, where the anxious feeling used to come up a lot, and that doesn't necessarily because it's become familiar, and sometimes I do, and then in those situations feel like I'm a little bit on autopilot. And that does sort of come back to being less present, or, I mean, yeah, there's something about the immediacy of how strong it can feel.
Mm-hmm. Just keep reflecting back what you are hearing from it, or what you're noticing about it. You notice that it is strong and immediate. And you can kind of turn that into a question. Why so strong? Why so immediate?
Mm-hmm.
And if that feels like a dead end, I get another prompt, another direction we can go with it.
Well, a memory where I did, where I was briefly in front of a lot of people, maybe 5-6 years ago, just to read something that I'd been asked to do. It did pop up for me, and I think that it does. I think it does have to do with being present and being, because I remember at that time, I mean, literally my knees were knocking together.
Yeah.
And the thing that sort of stopped that, which was me sort of, I guess, drawing on mindfulness kind of ideas, where I just said in my own mind, like, oh, my knees are knocking together. And then it stopped.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, I think it does have to do with being like in the moment, although it's not comfortable. But what was your other question?
My question was repeating a question that I mentioned earlier about designing a kind of perfect space for this part. Like, how does it want to meet you? Where would it, well, yeah, what's its perfect kind of place look like? If there's a place kind of more comfortable for it.
Well, going back to the image of the deer,
Yeah.
and I guess I would get a sense of like at a distance, and
Yes.
in a place where there are not going to be other people walking by.
Okay.
And I did see a deer yesterday or the day before. So that sort of scene was in my mind, and there were other people walking around. But if there weren't, and I could be still, totally still, and at a distance from it, it might not run away.
And is that what it's saying? It would feel more comfortable like that?
I'm kind of just going with that because that's what came into my mind.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Check it out. See if it would like that, and see if you can go ahead and create that place for it. Create that distance. Make a place where there's no other people.
Okay, I'm trying to do that. I still have my team of poets telling me that I can't visualize and yada yada yada.
Doesn't have to be visual. It can be emotionalized.
Yeah.
Just want this part to know that it matters, that its comfort matters, that you can see the things it doesn't like, other people or other parts trying to manage it, and that you want to kind of help it get to a nice place.
Yeah, what I think I received from it was that it wants connection, but it feels kind of danger everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm.
Does it make sense to you at all with this, how this part is experiencing that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think that it comes back to this sense of that if I get too comfortable, I'll just kind of get into this deluge of
Lose control.
detail and kind of
Uh-huh.
The desire for connection and sort of maybe enthusiasm and that can feel dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what those other parts were kind of pushing back on when I met them this morning. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you can let it know that makes sense, and let it know that you do have those enthusiastic parts or those detailed parts. Right?
Well, I think I'm seeing that almost as the anxious part, being anxious about um, um, about it doing that if it's not sort of ready to dash away.
Okay. Well, then you can acknowledge that it has parts that are deluge of detail or enthusiastic.
Yeah, that we'll get too comfortable.
Yeah, we're just validating it. It's not crazy. It wants connection. And it feels like if you're too comfortable, then you might lose that connection by having too much enthusiasm or too much detail. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it definitely feels a bit calmer.
And how about its desire for connection? Can you validate that too?
Yeah, it almost feels like a craving, something really strong.
Yeah. Are you okay with it? Sharing that depth of that craving for connection with you?
Yeah, um, I'm just thinking about its sort of propensity to kind of startle, and how that makes it lonely, and
how hard that is for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just let it know that you're getting that.
It's definitely more relaxed now. It's kind of, it feels warm, and it's it's um it's a bit closer. It's not kind of on
Great.
high alert.
Great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still a wild animal.
Sure. What's that mean?
I think it just means that propensity to dash away will kind of always be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of a power in a way.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, we are animals, and our parts get us out of danger before we have time to sit there and evaluate it. So I see its ability to act so quick as a power, as a good thing, and I see its warmth and yearning for connection as a good thing, a normal thing. Let me know if you want another question from me.
Yeah.
Okay. It has mentioned there being danger everywhere. Does it want to show you more of that, or what that's like for it?
I see.
So that you really understand the difference and the variety and depth of that danger.
I'm just feeling this connection with feelings that I've had very recently, but very frequent, about kind of wanting space from other people, even like people very close to me. And also not knowing what to do with it.
Not knowing what to do with...
Not being able to, when I have the space, kind of not feeling like I get to use it the way that I wanted to. So yeah, I think it has to do with routines and being like well I'm just thinking about something. Yeah, just go ahead.
My question is that this part saying there's danger in other people, but even when we get away from them, there's our own discomfort or danger in having space to ourselves? Or is that another part saying, yeah, but even when you do have space and distance, you don't use your time well?
Yeah, it could be another part. I think it comes back to that sort of desire or need for connection, and need for space being sort of Okay, I'm getting a little unclear now.
See if you can just get back to the anxious part in the space with it.
Yeah.
I had asked about just following up on when it said that there's danger everywhere. I was thinking that might be something it wanted to show you more about, so that it felt like you really understood what it's feeling and looking out for.
Yeah. So when you ask that again, I feel like, and I might have said this before, but I feel like the danger is about being perceived in a way that's not that doesn't feel true to me, or misinterpreted. I don't know if I did say that before, but that seemed to be more clear than the space no space thing. I think that's something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this part's saying it's really dangerous for you to be perceived in a way that's not true to you or to be misinterpreted. Or did I misinterpret that?
No, I think that feels right. I'm trying to find out more about what what the danger is. I think that it comes back to that a sense of being kind of on the spot. That it's hard to redress something that has been interpreted a certain way, and it involves kind of speaking and
definitely
oh God, I don't know if this is relevant. I just had a thought of these recurrent dreams that I had years ago.
Yeah, let's check
I
them
mean,
out.
it's so random, that's like, why is that there? Yeah.
Do you want to share it?
Yeah, I mean, they had to do each time with being in a kind of situation that during the dream I would kind of realize that there had been this massive misunderstanding and that I was expected to do X. And in the dream, each time in a different kind of context, each time I would be like, but all these people think I'm going to do this. And it would just be, I'll just let it happen. And then I'll just untangle myself from it later, because it would be too hard to just sort of say, like, actually, no, this is all wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
There's something just such a struggle and something so uncomfortable, and that about that kind of like having to just stop things in their tracks and explain to people, like, you have completely, this should not be happening. Yeah.
Okay. So take that dream and that experience, check it out with that anxious part, and just say, was that a totally random thought that came from nowhere, or does it know some things about that and that discomfort? Is that part of what feels so dangerous to it?
Yeah, I think it has to do with people being angry with me. Maybe. Potential for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that just came when I asked that just came from sort of thinking about a more recent, like real life situation where it might come up, where I might be kind of on the spot, and if anxiety gets really high, it does, I think, have to do with being around other people's intense feelings or displeasure or anger. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
it does. I mean, it's in like a work setting that can happen every so often, and
yes.
Yeah.
If you want, you could ask the part to show you some times that aren't so recent about that. You could say, what are the earliest times that it remembers feeling like it had to look out for that?
Yeah, well, what comes up right away is what I think I mentioned to you in a text. Like there was physical punishment in my childhood. It didn't happen all that often, but I I could even say actually how much it happened, but I can certainly really remember the feeling of like just having nowhere to run.
Okay.
And yeah, that's just what came up.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's sort of feeling kind of physical response to.
Does it feel like too much?
No, it's okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just let it know that it's okay right now, just in the place that you are right now, to be sharing that with you.
Mm-hmm.
That you can handle some of that, even those memories that bring up those physical feelings in you. That you're in a space now where you can witness that. And that it's an important thing for you to understand.
So I'm only getting sensations now. And what I'm doing is just trying to kind of make space around them. And
yeah, and does that all feel right?
Yeah, just
Great.
trying to keep going back to this is important to understand or important to
it's an important part of it's an important part of this part. It's an important part of you, your history. It's important for you to be able to make space and not exile any parts that are still carrying that. There's also no hurry. Again, there's no need to share anything that doesn't feel comfortable to share.
So as well as the kind of buzzy sensations, which I'm associating with this part and the memory, I also feel like I'm kind of tapping into this emptiness that I've talked about before.
Yes.
And maybe I'm just saying that because I'm literally only feeling the sensations. I'm not really like going any further into that memory or having any other sort of it just feels like there's a nothingness there, which we've approached before as well.
Does it feel like a part trying to block and say, don't go there, there's nothing there? Or does it feel more like a part that doesn't know how to show up, or itself might feel like I'm nothing? Or neither of the above?
Well, I was going to say, is it possible that it's both? Because let me sit with it a bit more. I really don't know.
Okay.
I have kind of like whole body sort of buzzy sensations. So what I was feeling just at the beginning, kind of just on my face and my lips, is kind of whole body. It's not super big. It's just there. And then this kind of nothingness. I almost just got this sense that how could I put it? There's just like an emptiness all around the sensation.
You feeling curious about it?
About the emptiness?
About that emptiness and those physical sensations?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think so, but let me see. Yeah, the sensations fill up space a bit more when I try to kind of make space and bring curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
They get a little bigger. They're not like super intense, but they sort of fill out.
I have an idea. You can see if it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Check in with the buzzy, anxious part. Let it know that you're detecting this other stuff. This stuff that's not just the anxious buzzy, but it's also these other sensations and this thing that you're calling emptiness. And see if the anxious part will give you permission to go and learn more about that. Like if it feels right to the anxious part for you to go be with that, whatever that is.
I'm just trying to feel if the emptiness is still there, because the buzziness really filled out a lot.
So we know there's a connection, and so we're just before we even move on, it's just asking that buzzy part how it feels about the idea of you going to that other one, that other sensation.
Even if the other sensation is gone?
Even if the other sensation is gone.
Okay.
And with the idea that you would be taking the same self energy that you brought to the buzzy part, the anxious part, you would go try to offer that to the other. Getting anything?
The sensations are pretty strong, but
the buzzy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this little bit of a mm, I want to say freezing, I want to say blanking, and neither really feels quite like the right word, but that when I am bringing the question to the part or the trying to communicate with it, that there's a stalling.
It's okay.
Yeah, and almost it's like being suspended in a moment where, so that's why I guess that's why I'm saying freezing. So I sort of feel like it hasn't shut the door. It's just that I'm stalled somewhere, and I could try a little bit more.
I imagine there are other parts that
Yes,
have their own concerns
yes, it
about
feels
you
like
going
it.
to this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's somewhat like the usual crowd
Yes.
of like, this isn't real. This is, or doubting. But yeah.
Okay.
But I sort of I keep feeling like I'm close to getting that message there. And then I think the hazy part kind of comes in and is part of that sense of being like stalled. Yeah.
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 I think you're doing a really great job. And it's good that you're noticing that there may be other parts, hazy, doubting parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're all equally important. Their concerns are important. Their messages are important.
I'm just going to change my position.
Okay.
See what that is.
What's coming up for you now?
There's still buzziness, but it's less, and I think I do feel that kind of where it drops off. Before it was almost kind of like Almost like there's a cliff all around the edge of the buzziness.
Is the nothingness on the other side of the cliff?
Yeah, I mean it was, and now, yeah. Yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of space around.
Okay. I think the parts might appreciate if you just let them know what you're seeing. Let the buzzy part know that you're noticing that there's something beyond. Let the parts, the hazy one and the doubting ones, just acknowledge them all. You know, when I was suggesting like ask the buzzy part how it would feel about you going there, that doesn't necessarily mean that and now we need to go there.
Yeah, I just keep coming back to trying to just notice what I'm noticing and somehow just kind of I know that this sounds like the same language as emptiness, but it's not. It's like trying to kind of make space around it.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to help.
Well, I do think that next place is really important. I personally don't think that I'll have time to guide you there in this conversation. And what I'm thinking to do instead is maybe kind of summarize what I'm seeing, so that you and your parts feel like I have some clarity there too, and that I'm not misinterpreting anything. And then maybe we could set an intention for what we might do next. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Okay. So this anxious, buzzy part showed you a lot about itself.
Yeah.
From its concern about being recorded, speaking publicly, it said there's danger everywhere. If you're too comfortable, enthusiasm, deluge of detail. Talked about wanting space from people, but also wanting connection. And I'm just looking at my notes. And when we were asking about what is the danger, you were recalling these dreams and the potential for people to get angry with you. Yeah, the potential for people to get angry with you and what that would mean. And that led us to the memories of being physically punished as a child. So I am assuming, I'm guessing, and you can check this out with parts. I'm guessing that the anxious one is a protector. It gets you out of situations. It looks out for dangerous situations. And some of those situations are other people being angry with you. And some of those situations have been times when you were physically punished and hurt. So I'm guessing that the protector is this anxious part, and there is an exile. There is the one who is hurt or was hurt. And I'm also guessing that there are lots of protectors around that, including haziness, including this isn't real.
Yeah, and probably a kind of a sort of like, oh, that's, you know, a long time in the past, and and there's a reason it's hard to remember.
Yep. And there's a reason why it came up in dreams not so long ago.
Well, the dreams are very different. But they have, there's some sort of connection between displeasing people.
Some connection. And there's some connection with this anxiety that is plenty recent, right?
Yeah.
So it's true. Just acknowledging that part, it's true. These things are a long time in the past. It's true that the memories might not be real clear. I mean, right when you first started sensing it, you said, well, maybe it didn't happen all that often, but actually I can't say how often it happened. So there are parts.
Yeah. That's what I mean
saying,
by the
hold
kind
on,
of like, oh,
do we really have the record here? And was this really that bad? And
yeah, exactly.
What are we doing? Right.
Yeah.
Which
you got it.
is so normal.
Yeah. It's kind of like, do you want to dig into that really, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of parent defender parts as well.
Of course. Yep. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a bunch of protectors, and I'm not quite seeing an exile, but I think that is what's on the other side there. And I think that if we were to keep getting to know these protectors, maybe at the same pace, you really got to know this anxious one today. Maybe there's 7 other protectors that need this much time and care or more. And then perhaps they will trust you as self to go and visit any part. And then perhaps this will be more clear to you. This nothing on the other side of the cliff kind of whatever. And maybe you'll be able to bring that same energy to it, help it, heal it.
Sounds like a good thing to try, at least.
Yep. And if I'm wrong about any of that, I'm open to that. And we'll just keep learning directly from the parts.
Yeah, so sometimes when I re-listen, I can feel more clear about things.
Right.
I mean, I don't think there was any wrong turns, but sometimes, I mean, anxiety could be very broad, right? Yeah.
Yep. And I'm just kind of overlaying the standard IFS model on this. So again, I don't want to make something up where it's not, but that's what I'm predicting and seeing from where I am. So again, if I am at any point misinterpreting anything, if any part does want to clarify, that would be great. I'd like that.
Yeah.
And I think you did awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations on embracing the silence and the parts that gave you space for that. Thank them.
Yeah.
And for the anxious part who wanted to run away but found a way to stay and show you more about itself.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, James. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, it was interesting.
Are you on my calendar? Do you know before I leave?
Yeah, I think that in about a month, the next good time was sort of towards the end of your window. So
Okay.
yeah. That
Okay.
I'm going to try to keep lightly connecting with these parts in the meantime.
If I can find an opening sooner, if you're interested, I'll let you know.
Sure, perfect. Yeah, I think our schedules are not that. I feel like with the Mondays and Thursdays are always the best day for me, but this is good. It's also this I picked out that other date as a good date, so it works, and I'll keep you posted if I have any new insights.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. I'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, James. Thanks for your time. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.